Today, we're talking about something that rarely makes it into the headlines, but shows up in every single family's real life. It's the non medical side of long term care. I'm joined by Jen Wagner from One America, and we're diving into the overlooked world of homemaker care and ancillary benefits in LTC planning. Because the truth is, it's not always the big hospital bills or the nursing home stays that wreck a retirement plan. Sometimes it's who's doing the laundry, driving to the appointment, or cooking dinner when your client can't. So, Jen, thanks for joining us.
Oh, David, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. And, let's start with this. When most people think of long term care, they picture wheelchairs and full time nurses and, maybe it's Salsa Tuesday and Italia Thursday. But most care starts at home and it's not always medical, right? What are the most overlooked aspects of care that families end up scrambling to cover?
Yeah, and I know we're going to dive into this a little bit more, but the two main ones I would say would be personal care and homemaker services. Those are the two that are most overlooked because people think nursing home, right? When they think of care.
They do. They do. And rarely is that the case. I mean, long-term care is a gradual increase in needs. But, look, Jen, you live and exist entirely in the long-term care space. Have you ever seen a family kind of completely fall apart, not because they didn't have the funds, but more of a logistical nightmare?
Oh, absolutely. And I don't want to say just clients because I'm living it, right? I'm a personal testimony when it comes to experiencing these types of things with being felt like you're being burdened or you feel guilty because you're neglecting other duties of your life trying to be a caretaker. So I see a lot of it in myself because I am a caretaker for my own mother who's handicapped, but I also have the same experience with my siblings, just like other clients that I know go are going through this. It does wreck a family because you always feel like someone's got to step up. And if you're the one that steps up, you're the one that carries sometimes a lot of resentment and you carry a lot of that pain because you feel so alone and you don't understand why other family members don't step up. These are the quiet, I would say, quiet secrets that a lot of caretakers kind of carry with them and they don't share. You don't hear this side when it comes to caretaking. You just think, again, we just mentioned it. You just think nursing home.
I appreciate you sharing that personal side, but really touching on the emotional piece of that because I do think that's a piece that most families don't think about. Even when you have the funding, it's okay. Well, they're just going to go stay here, and it's like, well, if you've been directly impacted in a long term care scenario, like the resentment piece is real. So
Mhm.
I really appreciate. I think it's a vulnerable place to sit in to say something like that. So I appreciate that. And it's interesting, when I talk to advisors about long-term care, we're always thinking about the benefit amount and what's that going to cover. But when I tell them, hey, this might cover somebody coming in and making breakfast, doing laundry, or like brewing your coffee, they look at me sideways. But I'm right in saying that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So this what you just mentioned, that all falls under the homemaker services and personal care that were the two big things that are missed when people think about long-term care. So think of it this way. If you're unable to perform activities of daily living, right? So activities of daily living would be like feeding yourself or bathing yourself. Those are activities of daily living. So if you think about that concept and you're not able to perform those activity of that the activity of daily living, what makes you think you're going to be able to cook for yourself or even clean yourself, right? Or clean the house for yourself. So that's what long-term care encompasses.
Well, let's dive into that a little bit more. I mean, because it isn't just medical. It truly is, good long-term care planning, real long-term care planning. It's life management. So when we think about it, let's zoom in on homemaker services. You touched on them a little bit there, but you kind of give us a quick run through of what homemaker services covers, right? And who typically provides those services?
Okay, so this is a great question because a lot of people don't realize that this is part of the long-term care insurance coverage that they could get, right? And that this also includes as part of your long-term care event. So homemaker services include things like light housekeeping, getting your laundry done, meal preparations and grocery shopping because you got to get the food in order to cook it, right? And other things, simple things like running errands. Like we talk about, oh, I got to run an errand, but that's part of homemaker services as well. So as far as who can receive homemaker services, like or who's going to provide it, you're going to receive it from home care agency. So if you hire an agency to come in where they send a team of people to come take care of you, those services are going to be covered. As far as policies, and this is where knowing your policy details is so important because some will cover informal, um, unskilled caretakers or even formal or skilled caretakers to provide those homemaker services as well. And of course, the one that most people resonate with, and this is, I would say, the majority of homemaker service providers is going to be family members.
And it's if we're honest, right, the default caregiver is often the daughter or the spouse. Right, exactly, and I live it, right, day in and day out. We have a family member that cannot care for herself at 100%, and she has 4 children, and 3 are boys,
Oh
and
no.
1 is a daughter, and I can tell you who handles 95% of it, right? And it just is what it is, right? And unfortunately, it's an unfair burden. It's impact their home life. It impacts their children lives, right? I mean, you kind of think about the natural age of things, and that daughter has a family of her own. She may have to leave work. She may have to miss events at school. It just puts a lot of burden on the family, and homemaker services can really alleviate some of that burden, if not a large amount of it. And it's why, you and I agree regularly. It's so important that when you're doing long-term care planning, when you're talking to a client about long-term care, you have to bring in that next generation.
Oh yes, I would agree with that, and I would add to it. Um, a lot of people don't talk about it. Mental health is a big issue in this caretaking space, right? Because it is silent. A lot of people carry that burden all on their own. They don't really talk about or share how they feel because it's where guilt starts bubbling up. If I talk about how I really feel, then I'm going to be shamed for feeling this way. And honestly, this is what we're all going through if we are family members taking care of loved ones. You remember what your loved one used to be like, right? You remember them. If it's your spouse, you remember when they were your partner and their personality and why you fell in love with them, and they're now a changed person. So you start missing who you both used to be. Same thing if it was a child, if as the oldest daughter, you remember your parent as this strong pillar of strength and knowledge and protector. And now you're the one that's cleaning up after them. They can't remember things that you know are so basic and simple. And you're the one that has to remind them, and this is where impatience comes out and agitation, and you get short with them. Then all of a sudden, that guilty emotion comes back to you. There's just a lot that a caretaker can carry because you're trying to do it all and juggle. This is the big one, and juggle their personal life, their own family, their spouse, and maintaining that relationship and their job, like you mentioned. Do I pass up on this promotion? Do I not take on extra hours, or do I not take on this project? So it's a mental balancing act.
Yeah, I would say that if I was going to like psychoanalyze or be the psychotherapist here, but if you're a child taking care of a parent in a long-term care scenario, you might as well get rid of every boundary that you ever thought existed.
100%. But we know that's not practical, right?
So, there's no good way around it if planning isn't in place, and planning is really to mitigate, not even to necessarily remove 100% of what's going to happen there, but it is to make it a lot easier. So, Jen, I really appreciate you going through the emotional aspects of it, um, and what that experience really looks like. As we kind of break into what the policy covers, and you're with One America, so we're going to talk about One America's policy specifically. And this was something that I kind of discovered when I was doing a plan for a client, for an advisor and their clients. But mm, you talked a little bit about what Homemaker Services is, what's covered there. Are are homemaker services tied to activities of daily living? Like, how does the policy actually function in a homemaker service? And I know California is a little bit different, being an entirely reimbursement policy, but your policy is 75% indemnity in other states, so you have a little bit more of a mixed bag of choices. But tell us kind of what that structure and how that policy actually works.
So, putting indemnity aside, because if you get cash in hand, you're allowed to spend that money however you want to spend it, right? So, if you want to take that money and you want to buy a new riding lawnmower with it, you're allowed to. Right? Like, we're not gonna question it. But when you are dialing in, let's say, for example, reimbursement policy, or you've got to show on your taxes that you really use the funds or the benefits to pay for long-term care expenses, and you gotta show that. This is where, for us, how it's triggered, the homemaker services are included in your policy, but what really allows it to be considered a eligible expense would be your provider, your doctor, putting it in your plan of care that you need help with this, right? You're gonna, because of your activities of daily living inabilities, you're going to need help with cleaning. You're going to need help with food preparation. You're going to need help with laundry. Like, those things has, like, the provider, the doctor has to build that into the plan of care.
And tell us, because I know you have a pretty robust, care concierge team or claims concierge team. How do they work with, let's say the person that's put in charge of handling the long-term care claim? How do they work with and coach that individual, through the beginning stages and possibly even ongoing?
I'm glad you brought that up because claims concierge is such an important benefit that no one talks about, right? Because honestly, no one talks about it because a lot of insurance policies, long-term care insurance policies, may not have claims concierge built into their policy. For One America, luckily, we pride ourselves on our claims concierge because they are your first step, period. Even before you are, let's say, technically going on claim, like, if you think and let, not even if you think as the insured or the claimant, right? But if your child thinks that something's wrong, like, mom, dad seems a little bit off. They seem to be forgetting a lot of things. Bills are starting to pile up here. Like, I'm worried. Make that call to our claims department. That's what claims concierge is, because now you're getting in touch with One America at the very beginning so we can help navigate through the entire process of, okay, here are your next steps. Daughter, you're going to need to get a power of attorney. Can you get that completed? You're going to need to talk to your doctor. And specifically, these are the things that the doctor is going to have to write out on their plan of care with whatever diagnosis they have. Like, they're going to really be, I would say, what's the right word here? Like, they're really going to break it down step by step of what is needed, because we're not here. We don't want to deny a claim. This is not why people buy insurance, right? Especially long-term care insurance. We're not here to try to deny a claim. We want to make this claims process as smooth as possible so you can get an approved claim.
I appreciate you diving into that. And it's kind of funny. I see this happen throughout the entire insurance process, right? It's the client or the advisor says insurance is too expensive and they've never looked at a quote. They say they won't qualify, but they've never been underwritten. And then come claim time, I mean, life insurance is either you're either dead or you're not, so that's kind of straightforward. But I actually know advisors who have really robust long-term care policies who recently called me and was like, "Hey, do you think," it was the son who called me and they were like, "Hey, dad's got a policy. Do you think they're going to qualify?" Like, and it's been a year. Like they were just waiting, and I'm like, "Yeah, the guy's going to qualify." Like, come
Like,
on, you know?
why'd you wait a year?
I'm like, you don't tell you don't want to ask, you know. So don't say it's too expensive if you haven't looked at it. Don't say you won't qualify if you haven't been underwritten, and don't hesitate to use your insurance. And I always say, especially in the long term care world, use all of it. Like, burn it out. That's why the leverage exists. Like, just get everything.
Because what's the worst case scenario? You call a little bit too early and they tell you, "Not now?"
Right. And they're going to coach you on, hey, like your team's going to know if somebody's on a path towards being on claim.
Right,
That's
right.
when that coaching is so important to say, "Hey, look, you wanna go to your doctor, you wanna make sure, like, tell him or her everything."
Yes,
"Are
agree.
you having trouble lifting the kettle up?"
Mhm.
Right? "Did you leave your stove on?"
Yep.
Did you forget to make dinner on Thursday when the family came over? Like, now's the time to start having, I hesitate to say too much, like, don't go to the doctor and tell them that my wife says I'm snoring because they're gonna diagnose you with sleep apnea when really you just snore, right? So you wanna avoid saying things like that necessarily, but from a long-term care standpoint, like, you wanna be overly honest, maybe
Right.
is the way to say it.
Once you have the policy, right? Once you've had the policy, like there is never a point in time that it's too early to call because we're never going to decline the claim. It's just maybe not right now. But here are the
Right.
steps or here are the signs or the things to look for so that we can revisit this.
And now what are some of the, we'll call them quiet heroes inside the One America policy, things like transportation, home modifications, meal services, equipment, and break down some of that for us.
Oh my gosh, there's so many hidden gems within our policies that people don't even like know about and have really underutilized. I'm going to be quite honest on this one, like underutilized because they didn't know it was part of their policy. One of them is care coordination services. So, David, I don't know if you're familiar with care coordination services, but it's a third party um, vendor that you would reach out to help start aligning where what should I do? Do I hire a home care agency to come out to the home first, or should I go directly into an assisted living facility? Or they kind of help plan out and find all of these agencies to help get your claim started, right? Sometimes we know life's busy. You've got a newborn, David. Do you have the time to do all the research yourself to figure out in a 50-mile radius what type of agencies are available for you and which ones are ranked top, middle, low, and what their price points are because they're going to have all different price points as well. I mean, you need sleep right now with a newborn.
I have a reminder set to like remind me to take magnesium before I go to bed, so everything's covered.
Care coordination service is definitely a hidden gem that is underutilized. But there's other things like home modification and supportive equipment. If you want to stay in your home, which is what most people want to do, they want to start off at home. And sometimes they think, oh, long term care insurance only covers someone coming and, helping me take a bath. Right? Help me take a bath. And that's probably the end of it. But we've already talked about like homemaker services to help with light cleaning and meal preparation and running errands. But maybe your home needs to be modified. Maybe you need to have a ramp. Maybe you need to have a lift system put in. Um, Automatic medication dispensers because you need to have a reminder to take magnesium. you know? So little things like that are part of the policy as well that, people don't really know that they have out there. So there's a lot more that I can share with you. Adult daycare, um, bed reservation benefit for a facility. That's a big one because people go in and out of care. They get a little bit better and they go back in. Sometimes you just need to make sure that that facility saves your bed so they don't give your space up to someone else that's on the wait list, right? So these are things that you have protection with on your policy.
There is a lot more to a policy than just, as you said, the nurse, the nursing home or the bed, or there's so much more to it. The home modification thing was a real eye opener to me. That was always a lean that I gave to indemnity policies, like, oh, you need to remodel a bath, it can do it, but actually a reimbursement policy can do that too. So it's amazing. Um, all of the various pieces to the puzzle, and it really is a puzzle. It's a big one, but all the pieces that any long-term care policy can actually cover. So Jen, you opened up sharing your story, and look, storytelling is a big part of long-term care. Oftentimes, as I was saying, in many of the conversations I have, it's all policy mechanics. It's economic based, right? But how do you coach advisors, and you speak directly with many, many advisors, but how do you coach advisors to lead with life impact and not just the policy mechanics when talking about long-term care?
I mean, everybody wants to nerd out on the mechanics, right? But with long-term care, you can't just nerd out on the mechanics. It's a little bit more of an emotional conversation. And everyone, I don't care who you are, has a story or some sort of experience with someone that they know that has needed or needed long-term care. So you want to kind of hone in on that piece right there because everyone has a story. What I find most common is that they just may not have realized what they experienced. They didn't know it was a long term care event or a long term care experience. Most people kind of envision what I just described as, oh, that's just part of life, right? We step up and we kind of help family members out a little bit. Or as a spouse, that's kind of your duty for better or worse. You just step up and you take care of that person. But it does fall under long term care. And this is the storytelling that we have to share that this is what long term care insurance does. It's going to take away some of that burden and that stretching of self just a little bit, right? So that's what I always recommend. I'm like, hone in on the story, hone in your personal story, or find out from them what their story is. Because once you get people talking, there's a lot to be shared.
And when you're diving into that story, what are some of the questions that you like to ask to uncover those non-medical risk? Whether it's caregiver burnout or home support. What are some of the questions that you like to lead with?
There's only two. I keep things very simple. There's
I
only
like
two
it.
questions. So the first question, and of course, you're always going to have backup questions, right? But there's really two main questions. And you want to lead with number one, the first question. If care is needed, we're just going to pretend that you may not need care. But if you did need it, who is going to take care of you? And let them talk. Is it going to be your oldest daughter? Is it going to be your youngest son? Is it going to be your spouse? And why? Why'd you choose that person? Or you can't choose, or you don't know, right? So that opens up just more conversations. Let's dive in a little bit deeper on that. There's a lot that can be uncovered with just that first question. The second question is, okay, back to the if care is needed, how do you plan on paying for it? Are you going to tap into your 401k? How about that CD of yours in the bank or all your stocks that you've got invested? Let's talk about that. Like, where are you tapping into first? Or are you selling off property? What if the market's down? So these are questions that, you know, you can kind of uncover with them. But
Hmm.
that's it. Those are the two questions. We're keeping it simple.
I'm going to follow the follow question to that, to question one of who's going to take care of you, is always, do they know?
Yeah.
So that one may be a surprise. So that one probably starts the next part of that. generational planning. So if nice natural lead into the children or grandchildren in that scenario. Look, Jen, I again, I really appreciate you joining us today. I really appreciate your story. I always like to lead with or end, I should say, with a couple kind of quick fire, rapid questions here, right? So let's do those three. Is what are the top three overlooked benefits in One America's LTC structure?
Our claims concierge, we touched on that. That's a biggie, huge. The other one I would say are lifetime benefits. We're the only asset based long term care carrier that offers the peace of mind and the guaranteed that you're not going to run out of long term care benefits. And I would say care coordination. We touched on that one too. Not a
Yeah.
lot of people know they have that service.
And if you could leave advisors with one mindset shift about long-term care planning, what would it be?
It's about giving your clients control of their life. And that's it. It's as simple as that. Don't let the government control your care. Don't let your family control the type of care you're going to receive. You take control.
All right. And last thing is if somebody wants to learn more, get training, see how these benefits work in action, where can they go?
We have What America puts on weekly virtual training sessions. So we'll have the link posted below for people that click on that and register.
Excellent. Well, Jen, look, again, I really appreciate it. And if you're interested in learning more about One America, Homemaker Services, long term care planning, the storytelling part of it, the economic part of it, any of that, feel free to reach out directly to me. You can either message me, email me, call me. All of my info is available to you. Thank you for joining us today. And Jen, as always, I enjoy our conversations together and I look forward to the next one.
Thank you, David.